So, Sarita, it's been 30 years since Mississippi Masala first came out. It's been a long time.
Long time.
What was happening in your life when the movie came to you?
So I was in London. I just graduated from film school. I was 22. It's that age where you're so excited by your own, with film school, it was very philosophical and critical theory. And my head, I felt like the most intellectual girl in London, and I wanted a job that fit that. I get this message from someone saying, Mira Nair's in town looking for the lead for her movie, an Indian girl who's in her early 20s. I was actually a big fan of Mira Nair's. We had seen her documentaries and Salon Bombay, obviously. Obviously, I didn't think of me, but I did think, I'd love to work with Mira. So I just thought, I'm not going to get the role, but maybe I could bring coffee to people on sets. And so I found a way to get in, and the process began.
So, you'd never auditioned for a movie before,
No.
right? That was your first
No.
audition. And
Yes.
do you remember what it was like, what the actual audition process was like?
No, I remember everything, because it's my first film, right? It threw me into the world of cinema. I remember I walked into the room and Mira was there, and she's so magnetic. She's got these eyes when you talk to her, like she can see right through you. And this smile, and she's very charismatic and very smart. I feel like she can tell if you're telling the truth. It's the wildest thing. Like when I was around her, I remember just thinking, I just want to be around this woman. And then after the second or third time I read, she said to me, Sarita, it was so nice meeting you. I hope we meet again. That's when I thought I didn't get the role. And she said, by the way, if you want to have a drink tonight, let's meet up. And so we did. And during the drink, she said, would you do the honor of playing Mina? And then I just burst into tears.
What was your first impression of what kind of story this was going to be?
What I remember is thinking, oh my God, this is everything I care about. It's political.
Africa is for Africans. Black Africans.
It's culturally needed.
Send them back to the reservation. That's what I'll say.
How many times do I have to tell you? They're not that kind of Indian.
But also mainly, I saw such a fire in Mina.
Father can feed us just fine, you wanker.
I fell in love with her. It was almost like I didn't have to bring anything to it. Like, I knew her. I didn't know if I could, I didn't know about the chemistry and the other aspects of pulling that off, but I knew Mina.
Tell me a little bit about the actual rehearsal process.
Rehearsals were hard because I was so shy when I first met Denzel, and I just didn't want to be fired. That's all I kept thinking. I also was very aware that Denzel was so, even at his young age, seasoned, and he'd been through so much, and I was the one with no experience. So I kept very quiet as much as I could. And I kept thinking, he'll see when I'm on set, I'm just gonna explode.
You listen to me. I never went after you. You chased me.
It's kind of amazing looking back. This movie has just a stacked cast, as they say. It has these legends of acting from India, from the US. It brings together so many seasoned actors.
So true. Roshan, I knew I'd get along with. He just seemed easygoing. Roshan has a certain cadence and a certain way of pausing.
Money comes, money goes. Right?
That I remember as a 24-year-old just kind of thinking, what's going on? Oh my God, but loving it. And it kind of was perfect for the scene because I'm his daughter and I'm impatient. Sharmila is so great and very funny, and I think I was scared she was going to be this Bollywood star. And yet, no, she was very down to earth. Sharmila had this ease and grace and this posture, and I just remember whenever I saw her, I was like, oh my God, stand up straight, Sarita. And we had a scene where she's oiling my hair at the pool. And I remember her putting her hands in my hair, and I was just looking forward. And I just thought, I can't believe Sharmila Tagore is putting her hands through my hair. I felt like such an urchin, and so lucky to be there.
It was shot on location in
Yes.
Greenwood, correct? And what was that like, living with all of these people? I mean, this is your first movie, and I believe you'd never been to the American South before.
No.
And so you're, staying there with all these seasoned actors in a motel for a number of weeks. What was that experience like?
Also, a cast of Indian and crew of Indian people all moved to Greenwood, Mississippi, and stayed in the same motel. It was fantastic. The hotels was kind of a horseshoe shape, and I remember there was like the pool in the middle, and there were balconies, and we could see each other, and every Indian person who lived in the community would come to see Sharmila, not me, and bring her food. It was amazing.
So while you were shooting there, did you talk to other Indians who were actually running motels in Mississippi? Because this is something that maybe a lot of people don't know, that there is a big community of Indian immigrants there.
When I was there, I went to some of these motels because I cleaned the motel in the film. And so I wanted to meet girls my age or anyone close to what I was doing. It's interesting because, like, in talking to them, there's Indian pride. It's one thing I almost respect is they don't answer the question in terms of the problem. They want to show you how well they're doing. Running a business that, yes, makes money for them and allows them to survive, but is looked down upon as well. And that moved me because I know it wasn't an easy life.
The milieu you're inhabiting in the film is so particular. They're Gujarati origin, but they've spent, several generations in Uganda at that point before coming to the US. What kind of research did you do to get all those nuances right?
It was a different kind of research. I had to research it as what my parents would have instilled in me, but not what I would have gotten directly from India. And you have to remember, my family in the film never grew up in India. So Uganda was actually where I was raised in the film. But then again, we left when I was young. So I who knows how much I remembered of Uganda. So my research couldn't be too thorough either.
Right.
Because I had to have a certain abandon and not understand my parents in a weird way. So it was tricky. It was really hard. Mina was so different from her parent. When you meet Mina, she's been in Mississippi for a while. I had to have an American accent.
How long you been in Mississippi?
3 years?
And before that, India?
No. Before that, I was in England.
Huh?
And before that, I was in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been to India.
Never been to India?
No.
You kidding?
No, I'm not. I'm a mixed masala.
That's my son.
What about playing a girl from Mississippi? What did you kind of discover about the American South while trying to figure out how to put together that character?
What was so interesting to me about the South was there's a languidness from the heat, and yet, for an Indian girl, how she dresses to respect her parents, but it is hot and you also want to fit in. So I did a lot of checking out other girls my age, but at the same time covering it up because I have the parents I have. And so they let me wear the Bob Marley t-shirt in one of the scenes. And with the costume designer, I would often be like, yes, and she was so great. I was like, I want that, but I want to tear it a bit here and then try and hide the tear because my parents are protective. I wouldn't have been allowed to dress, So it's the kind of work I did growing up. Any girl with Indian parents does.
And I want to know a little more about the experience of being in the South. What did you observe, it being your first time there?
The racism was very apparent. And I think, you hear about it, you read about it, you can't go to a restaurant if you're not the right color, or you feel the tension when you're walking on the street. Did they accept me? I'm between black and white, and what am I considered? But I felt the privilege of being with Mira and the crew, who they've navigated that so much in their lives. I just remember feeling I need to witness things and just take note. It was very palpable.
So I want to talk a little more about your working relationship with Denzel. It was the start of his career, but I believe he'd already won an Oscar for Glory. He was already a movie star, and this was such an unusual film, an Indian woman, a black man falling in love.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you both worked together to kind of capture the relationship between Mina and Demetrius.
People love Denzel so much, and it's warranted. I feel so privileged that for my first movie, I got to work with him. And the fact that he said yes to this film when he had just got an Oscar, it says a lot about him. And to see him also in Mississippi with us, all these Indian women and Denzel, if anything, he was the newcomer to the situation. Because I was very at home with my tribe. When I rewatched the film recently, it struck me even the way, I mean, everyone loves the way Denzel walks, but the way he walks in a scene, or the way he just does something with his cap, it's so specific, and it gives architecture to the scene, and it kind of blew me away. I was like, wow, it's one thing to be natural, but it's one thing to add layers in a scene through a certain movement. He's not only talented, but he's got this magnetic quality to him. And so I just remember thinking, I've got to do my thing. And it was kind of exciting when we would meet on the set, and then he would often do something completely different and unexpected. I think he realized that I watched him a lot. And so it kind of sparked something when he would change the energy. He was amazing.
Is there a particular scene that you remember with him that led to some kind of discovery for you? I mean, there's so many great scenes between you both. I'm curious if there was one that stands out to you.
I remember the walk by the bayou was a scene that I was nervous about. Do we have our first kiss there? I don't know. Yes. Oh, my God. And I remember just going, oh, my God, it's today. We have to do that scene. And I remember walking and just thinking, oh, my God, I'm so shy right now. But there's the other part of my brain that was always so typical of me that wasn't shy at all. And I wanted him to know that I wasn't shy. And again, that tension. But I remember we did one take. And after that one take, I thought, oh, I'm fine. This is going to be fine. And then it was great.
Let's talk about your working relationship with Mira. I feel like you began a really beautiful partnership with her through that film. And she was a very young, but already, again, acclaimed director by then.
Yes.
What was it like to work with her and to see her direct on set?
I think I was just, again, so happy to be in her presence. And I didn't want to ruin anything. We got along so well, and also we kind of had the same love for cinema that was, I think we understood each other. But I was 23. I was extra new, and I think she really had to be like, I hope this one shows up in the morning. And I remember just thinking, oh, I hope she knows I will show up.
But at what point did you think, I can do this, I got this?
I think towards the end, I got more used to Denzel being around and doing scenes with him, and I was still shy, but I also knew that shyness was important to keep. And I knew that there'd be certain moments where I could just look at him dead on, but I was going to save that for camera. So I started getting very aware of how to use my energy and not waste it and maybe surprise him. And that's when I think it changed, when that entered my thought process.
And do you think that sense of newness actually helped kind of flesh out the character of Meena, because she has this hesitancy and shyness about her, even though you can see that she's a force of nature, you know? And she's kind of that feisty girl who's a
Yeah.
trope now, but she has a deference to her. She feels very unique in that way.
You know, I think also, and you probably know this too, when you are an Indian daughter, your rebelliousness comes out of respect and love. There's no meanness involved. You're almost apologizing, but you're gonna do it. You're gonna do what you want. And that combination, I feel we all have anyway. So Meena has it for sure.
I'm not coming back. I'm sorry, but I can't go to Uganda. What would I do there?
Were you rebellious as a child?
I would say no, but yes, because I did everything. I mean, the fact I'm an actress means I had to rebel against normal, you know, what I would study at university. So yes, I truly believe like rebels don't know they're rebels. They're just following their passion. And I'm classic, like, I'm so sorry, but I'll still go there, you know?
Papa? Neetu's inviting me to go to the beach with her. Think I could go?
When will you be back?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I'd love to hear a little about how you shot the scenes in Biloxi, which is this,
yeah.
dramatic sort of climax of the film. For a couple different reasons, just it's such an important moment in the film, and it's when all the tensions come to a head. But for me personally, it's also a scene that really shows off Meena's self-possession. It shows off her eroticism, which was so refreshing to see, from this Indian heroine on screen in an American film. How did you approach all those aspects?
It's so weird being in a movie that you kind of wanted this movie to exist. I needed a Mississippi Masala, but I was in it instead. So if I'd gone to see Mississippi Masala and it was another girl, I'd be like, oh my God, finally I get to see myself on screen, and it will help me. And, we haven't seen that before. So when you ask me and I'm in it, it's so hard to answer what it was, because I was also dealing with, how am I going to do this? And also knowing that there are moments in life where, we always talk about, oh, I want to be political and I want to change things. And I was like, oh my God, is this my moment where I have to be brave enough to do this? Because it's not easy to do that when you have a community, and Indian cinema doesn't even show people kissing. I have parents. I'm from India. So it was a lot for me. And at the same time, being a student of cinema, being with Mira, who understood how I was feeling, helped me so not think about it too much and just launch myself. But it was probably and I don't want to call myself brave, but it was the bravest thing I've ever done.
And what was the actual process of shooting like? Do you remember? What did, for instance, Mira do to get you in that headspace?
I do remember two things. One is Mira put music on in the love scene. And that was kind of amazing, because that doesn't happen. You can't have, because of sound. And it just set a mood, and it gives you this weird strength. And then Denzel and I were sitting kind of on the bed waiting, and she was going to come and talk to us. And she just got into the bed in between us and started telling stories. And of course, we know what's going on. We're like, oh, like, I know she wanted to get us in the mood and the headspace, but at the same time, it was really wonderful, because she was right there, and I remember holding on to her, and Denzel was teasing her, and And then I remember she was like, okay, come on. And yeah, it was fantastic.
So I know that Meera and Suni's process for this film and all their films involves a lot of research. For this film, I know they did extensive research and interviews in Uganda, in Mississippi. You also came from this critical theory background. I think all of you had a political sensibility that really comes through in the film. You know, it's so nuanced and intersectional and makes such a powerful political comment. At the same time, it's a love story full of passion. It's so erotic, it's so physical. And I'm curious how you think that translation happened, you know, from that very particular sociopolitical context to a story that just makes you swoon.
What you just described in your question is who Meera is. It's hard to bring all those elements into a movie.
You can't be dark and have no money and expect to get Harry Patel.
Okello, this is my home.
Not an emoji.
And still have a love story that seems so fresh, you know? But I think her mind works like that. You know, when you meet Meera, even if she's talking about a heavy subject that's political, in the middle she'll make a joke and then she'll kind of give someone a slap and then they'll laugh. And that is who she is. And so it makes total sense to me that Mississippi Masala had all of that.
I love him. That's not a crime, is it?
What do you remember from how people responded to it?
There was so much love and there was such a good response to the movie. I remember we just popped into the middle of a screening and I remember people were moving to the music and I was like, this is wild. This is so great. Like people would come up to me on the street, which was so new for me, and talk about it. And especially if it was an Indian girl, oh my God, they would just be like, thank you. I didn't know, like, I could ever see a character that was similar to me. And it was very personal. But then I'd be in the Upper East Side and someone who I thought would never kind of see Mississippi Masala would come up to me and talk about it. I was kind of impressed by where it was seen and how many different people saw it.
I feel like the film really made mainstream or sort of mainstream a conversation around colorism, both in the Indian community and in the African American community, that was really rare at the time. And it's very impressive how the film manages to capture the feeling of displacement of the diaspora, but also their own role in perpetuating racism.
Mina is my only child. I don't want her to go through the same struggle as I did.
Struggle? Look, I'm a black man born and raised in Mississippi. Ain't a damn thing you can tell me about struggle.
What do you know about my...
No, I know. I know you and your folks can come down here from God knows where and be about as black as the ace of spades, and as soon as you get here, you start acting white and treating us like we your doormats.
I think what Meera did that was so great was we as characters had faults. We within our characters either experienced racism or were sometimes racist, and that's why it resonated.
And what do you feel is the legacy of the movie today?
It really represents, strength through love. The world presents so many problems consistently, and the one thing I've noticed is that whenever I'm happy or supported by either friends or family, ironically, those situations end up becoming not as bad as you thought. It just comforted me that other people had my life, in that I never felt fully at home anywhere except when I was with my family or my friends. And there's something about that movie that you see all these situations, you're like, how are they going to get through this? And at each level, the love and the friendships just buoy people up. I noticed that the last time at the screening. I came out of the screening and I was so happy, and seeing people's reactions around, everyone was like, oh my God, I feel very uplifted right now. And yet there were heavy subjects, and I thought, how does this film do that? It has such a light freedom feel two very heavy problems